Thank you very much, and it is great to be here among so many friends, so many great elected officials who I see here in support of this great fundraiser to raise money for the parade. I want to thank David Kilnick of the network, who's done an amazing job through thick and thin, and the great Danny Drum. David, the president and founder of the LGBT network, knows one thing. We all know it. Activism is hard work. Doing the day in, day out job of empowering people, building a better world is not easy, especially when you face such bigotry and anger and hostility drawn out of hatred, just pure abject hatred. But you need the strength to push onward because you know you're right. And that's what David has done for 30 years? Yeah, 30 years, even longer probably. But I know it for 30 years. He never stopped pushing forward. He's never stopped not only getting out there at the parade and cheering, but also the quiet and meaningful work of making the world a better place that he dreams it can be. So we all want to thank David for what you've done for Queens, for New York City, for New York State. And then the legend, Danny Drum. Danny is an icon for the LGBTQ individuals across this city. He's a true trailblazer, someone who won his first election for the city council by being true to himself. Not easy in those days. And he stood by his values, his identity. And when he won, he didn't mince words, he didn't hide. He said, quote, "It's a milestone in terms of achieving equality for LGBT people." Here's more what he said. "We've broken the glass ceiling, and now we have our foot in the door." And boy, did he do something with that foot in the door. Let's be clear. I always like my own jokes better than anybody else likes them. My colleagues in my caucus know that. Okay, so we brought, as a council member, he was a progressive fighter, not only fighting for LGBTQ rights, but for immigrants and for school. Always delivered for Queens. He was, you know, in one sense, like your old-fashioned council member, because he kept delivering and delivering and delivering for his district. He did it all. But maybe most importantly of all, because of his life and who he was and what he went through, he represented the everyday members of the LGBTQ community from all parts of our city. It's a little difficult to remember, but when Danny was elected, he was one of the first gay elected officials who was not from Manhattan or Chelsea. He stood for the tens of thousands of everyday New Yorkers in every neighborhood who identified as LGBTQ in the spirit of the Queen's Pride Parade itself. Danny represented the citizens of New York. So I want to thank him. I want to thank the network, all of you who are members of this network, either supporters or workers, who do such tremendous work. I'm always trying to help you. Like in Danny's image, I fought hard to work to secure a place in the appropriations process for community direct spending for the LGBT network and your critical Safe Spaces project. We've secured $500,000. And this is going to support, this is such a great project. I wasn't good enough to think about it, I just fund it. You know, that's my job, to fund these things. We've got more money back, by the way. When Moynihan used to decry that New York always sent more money to New York than they get back, for the last 2 years, we've gotten more back than we've sent. It's good to have the majority leader from New York. Anyway, this is going to support middle and high school age youth substance prevention, mental health, anti-bullying. The LGBT Safe Spaces project will be LGBT inclusive. It'll affirm gender and sexuality alliance clubs. So folks, these kids, especially in middle school, it's a tough time for everybody, can be together and affirm themselves and be together. And maybe one day someone in one of these groups will grow up to be the next Danny Drum. And I want to say, Queens, already you've gotten some major funding in these bills from the City Council. I want to thank my dear friend Shekhar, Danny's successor, who's helped give the funding there. And I know that so many of our legislators who are here have also contributed to make sure that happened. Lindra and Sandy and Julie and Lynn, or I saw them all here, spread out the table over there. And so there's a lot, you know, there's so much more to do. So much more to do. You know, I was, in September of 2020, I was in the middle of a family dinner when we received the news that a fellow Madison High School graduate, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, had passed away. I remember the awful feeling around the dinner table. And I distinctly remember the question my daughter and her wife asked: could our right to marriage be undone? When we saw that she had passed. And millions of Americans in same-sex marriages had gone about their days with this terrible question lurking in the back of their minds. It was a scary but necessary acknowledgement that despite all the progress we've made, the constitutional right to same-sex marriage was not even a decade old. And now it existed only by virtue of a narrow 5-4 Supreme Court decision. And so we passed legislation that enshrined the right to gay marriage. And now, no matter who's on the court, it stays. I was so proud of that. Now, in conclusion, the path to legislation that started in events like Queen's Pride, the path to legislation started in events like the parade. When people felt they could come together, when they could be proud, when they could be strong, when they could be out. That's what happened. So tonight, on this 30th anniversary, let's keep the parade going and strong and let it lead to more great change, progressive change, to bring full equality to all Americans. Thank you very much and have a great evening.
Let's hear it for Majority Leader Schumer.